Today I'll be sharing with you a little bit about detachment and non-attachment, the differences between them and what they look like. So these terms have been thrown around a lot in relationship, and there is a major distinction between non-attachment and detachment. So when it comes to Buddhist philosophy, that's where attachment comes in. And non-attachment is practicing releasing attachment to our connections, to our relationships, to the things in our lives, to events happening, etc. I'm going to be talking about it from the lens of relationship today. Whereas detachment, this is something that probably most of you have experienced, where it's an emotional distancing. So instead of allowing yourself to get very close to someone, to develop emotional intimacy, to be vulnerable with them, to really build that connection between the two of you, it's keeping that person a little bit at a distance so that that depth, that intimacy, and that emotional connection isn't as deep. And so detachment is actually preventing the attachment from happening in the first place. So for me personally, the way that showed up in my own life is closing my heart and keeping my heart closed in my connections. And so if you notice yourself going through a breakup and you're not as upset as you thought you might be, that could be a sign that either you're suppressing your emotions or that you've been detached from the other person. So the second thing, the opposite of that almost, is non-attachment. So non-attachment allows you to reach that level of emotional depth, that emotional intimacy with the other person. However, instead of holding that any emotional attachments, which would be, say, the sadness that would come up if you were to think about your breakup, or them leaving, or potential betrayal, whatever emotions are there and present, those are the attachments. And so when we hold those attachments in our body, instead of releasing them, then that creates strings. And so if you think about life as a river and continuing down the river, and without attachment, you'll just flow. And with attachments, you might try to hold on to the side. You might grab a branch and keep holding on and fight against the flow, even if the flow is naturally pushing you downstream. And so when it comes to non-attachment, when we release our attachments, the relationships that are in alignment for us, the ones that are actually true for our evolution and for what's best for us in the whole, those actually stay. So even after processing the breakup, letting them go emotionally, the depth of love is still present, and that if that person is really meant to be in your life, they will be. And I've been practicing non-attachment for about 2.5 years now, and every single time we release attachment to each other, our relationship gets deeper and deeper and deeper, stronger and stronger, healthier and healthier, and we release more of the stories and the pain and anything that's limiting us so that we can actually be in the highest expression of our relationship. Which, to put that in fun languaging, basically it gets sexier, more intimate, and more fun every single time we release attachment. And safer. And safer. So, how to release attachment. So, a lot of people will say that they are unattached or that they've released attachment, and yet most people don't actually know what that looks like, what that means to release attachment. And so there's a big difference between mentally releasing attachment, like saying, oh, I'm unattached, I'm releasing attachment, I let this person go, versus actually feeling non-attachment. And that's very different because that's an embodied non-attachment. Whereas the other one is in the mind and may not necessarily actually be true for your body and for your emotional body. So, the way to release attachment is I'm going to share with you the letting go methodology. And this is from Dr. David Hawkins. And the 3 steps to letting go, which you can think of this in terms of letting go of emotion or letting go of attachment. Honestly, they're very similar. So the 3 steps to letting go. 1, let go of trying to fix or change it. So feeling an emotion, a sensation in your body, because emotions are energy in motion, and when they get caught in the body, it shows up as a sensation. So this, if it's stuck in the body for a long period of time, that can turn into disease. So step 1, let go of trying to fix or change it. Step 2, let go of any judgment of it being there, or you feeling it even. Step 3, feel it fully. So feel it fully, let go of any judgment, let go of trying to fix or change it. So essentially what you're doing is you're observing the sensations and the emotions, allowing them to pass through in whatever expression that they need to move through. So that could look like just feeling it and breathing deeply. It could look like crying. It could look like maybe screaming into a pillow, having a rage release process, hitting a pillow, whatever you need to do around that. And as an adult, we tend to be a little more fragile in our rage release processes. So I'd recommend looking up some rage release processes and tools so that you can make sure that you don't hurt your body if you do a physical emotional release process. And so the first time that you ever release attachment, the first time can be a little bit intense and overwhelming, especially if you've never done it before. So I'd recommend starting with something small, something that you have a little bit of attachment to, but it's not going to be a huge thing. Like maybe don't start with your significant other or your mother or your father. I would recommend starting really small. So maybe even starting with a shirt in your closet or a piece of furniture, something that you have a little bit of attachment, that you enjoy. You'd be sad if you were to lose it or if it were to break, and at the same time that it's not shattering. Just to get some practice and to get familiar with the process of releasing attachment. So starting with, say, your favorite t-shirt, and imagining that your favorite t-shirt, whatever fear comes up for you. So when you release attachment, it's the emotions that are under the surface. Basically the emotions surrounding the object of attachment. So say that you'd feel fear that your favorite t-shirt will get a stain on it, or it'll get a rip in it. Or maybe you'll feel angry if someone takes it from you. Whatever comes up for you, whatever story you have around that object of attachment, that's where you want to dive in. And so if it doesn't come up naturally, sometimes actually saying it out loud, like, okay, how do I feel about this t-shirt? What would happen? How would I feel if it were to disappear? How would I feel if it were to be destroyed? How would I feel if someone were to take it? And coming up with different scenarios that could actually happen. Not things that are completely out of left field that seem completely made up. Those are irrelevant for you because you may actually not have any attachment around those. So it's only the areas where you're actually concerned. And so once you've identified, okay, I have a fear that I'm going to destroy my favorite t-shirt, or that it'll shrink in the wash, whatever it is. And allowing yourself to feel it fully. And so there are a lot of emotional release tools that you can use in order to actually release these stuck emotions in your body. the stored emotions. And one of those is EFT tapping. If you're not familiar, I would highly recommend it. It expedites any emotional release process that you experience. It does require a little bit of practice to actually get familiar with feeling the body, being in your body, breathing, while also tapping through all the points. And at the same time, this has been a tool that has expedited my growth and my expansion exponentially. So I would recommend using emotional release tools if you have access to it, if you feel inspired, if you'd like something to hold your hand. There are so many videos on YouTube that are guiding you through EFT tapping. So literally any topic that you're diving into, you'll probably find it on YouTube. So you have your emotional release tools so that you know that you can feel it fully and that you're safe, that you will get through it. And give yourself some time. Set a timer for, say, 10 minutes. Start small. And that way you know that you're going to feel for, say, 10 minutes. Maybe if that's too much, if that feels intense or overwhelming, start with 5. Start with 2. Whatever feels like a little bit of an edge but feels good to you. So start with, say, 2 to 10 minutes, maybe even longer. If you go longer, great. So setting your timer, knowing that you have a container, that you don't have to go for an indefinite amount of time until you're done. You know that you're held in this. Okay, so setting your timer. Step 2, allow yourself to start feeling it. So that might be breathing, starting to breathe more deeply. And one of the best ways to help emotions to flow through the body is by deepening the breath. And when you allow the breath to deepen, it allows your whole body to relax. It allows you to drop into the sensations, to feel what's happening inside of you. And it allows it to move through. And so one way that we hold emotions in our body is by tensing the body, constricting, and also by holding the breath or making it really shallow. So when you actually deepen your breath and you relax the body, it helps the emotions and the sensations in your body to move through more quickly. Okay. Third step. If the emotions are really present for you, dive right in. If you're like, okay, I'm releasing attachment to my t-shirt, I have no idea what this looks like. You can start by imagining, okay, what would it feel like? What's the scenario around potentially losing this t-shirt or destroying it or whatever the story is for you? Imagining that happening and see what emotions come up for you. And so if there's any fear of manifesting it by feeling it and actually consciously going through this scenario, by you actually releasing the emotions around it, you actually release that timeline and make it far less likely for it to actually happen. So the irony is that when we really feel the potential of that happening, it makes it so much less likely to happen. Because the way that our growth works is that we're growing in certain ways. So if you actually pre-process the things that would help you to grow, then they don't need to happen in this physical reality because you already processed them inside of you. Okay, so you're going through the imagination of what if this scenario were to happen and feeling what happens in your body as you do that. So if that's new for you, I would actually recommend starting with maybe just focusing your attention in your, say, center of your chest, in your heart area, and noticing what sensations come up for you. And so I would actually recommend starting there if it's your first time really diving into the sensations in your body and into emotions. Because for me, I found that it was quite a journey to get from numbness in order to feel fully. So just allowing yourself to feel where you're at, that's perfect. And again, bringing in EFT tapping. If you are not as familiar with your emotions, tapping is a great hack because you don't actually have to feel them fully. You can acknowledge them and bring love and compassion to them, and you don't have to be in the depths quite as much. It's a great place to start. So, breathing, setting a timer, starting to imagine the different scenarios and feeling the emotions behind it. And so you want to make sure that you allow yourself to feel the emotions fully to completion. So if you notice that you're getting stuck or that the emotion feels like it's going forever, an emotion should really take no more than 20 minutes max to feel fully. And if you get caught in it, that's where the letting go technique comes in. So releasing any judgment, letting go of trying to fix or change it. So embracing it fully here in this moment, allowing the sensation to be here fully in this moment, and then also feeling it fully. So, the icing on the cake there is also bringing compassion to yourself and bringing gentleness to yourself as you feel this, as you dive into the stories. And what that does is it's like the magic sauce that makes this all go so much faster, brings healing. So if you have any little bit of compassion for yourself, you can actually feel it in your heart and soften your heart, allowing the emotions into your heart, however that looks or feels for you, to bring some compassion, some acceptance, and love to yourself. And so after you've gone through this process, you've felt the feels, you've gone through these scenarios, you can actually check your work by either revisualizing that scenario and seeing if there's any remaining emotional charge around it, if you feel any emotions or sensations in your body. And the other way that you can check your work is by diving into the say your t-shirt again. So something that's really helpful that I've learned in EFT tapping is actually stating, I am releasing any remaining attachment to whatever you're releasing attachment to. And so the way that this works is it allows yourself to kind of scan on an unconscious level and find any remaining attachment in your body, in your mind, in the stories, and allows you to release that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a mental search. It's more you asking the question allows any remaining attachment to come up. So you can say, do I have any remaining attachment to whatever you're releasing attachment to? Or I am releasing any remaining attachment to, and allowing that to actually just surface it. Keep in mind that this is a journey. This is a process. And so as you dive into releasing attachment, it is such a transformational growth path. And so if you're looking for additional support, I would highly recommend listening to Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender by Dr. David Hawkins. He has a very scientific way of guiding you through the emotional release process and how to work through literally all of the emotions one at a time. And his process is really, really potent, and I would highly recommend it in physical copy, but also Audible. On Audible, it's really, really great. The narrator is very good. And if you're planning on really diving into this, I would recommend actually listening to it multiple times so that it anchors into your body and so you have a deeper understanding. Okay. And so, once you've practiced releasing attachment to something smaller, I recommend starting to release attachment to the more significant people in your life. Noticing any emotions that come up for you, any stories, any resentment, any judgment, and allowing yourself to get honest with yourself on what you're holding in those connections. Because when you release that, it creates so much depth, capacity for expansion, for love, for deepening your connection. And it can set both of you free. One last disclaimer. If you're doing this with a significant other and you want this to be a significant part of your practice, I would highly recommend getting your partner on board. And the reason for that is that when you release attachment to someone, it creates a lot of energetic and emotional space. And so if the other person is not aware that you're doing this, then they might actually grasp on a little bit harder, which can feel really nice when you're also attached. But when you're non-attached and the other person is attached, it feels clingy and needy. And so actually communicating with your partner, hey, just so you know, I'm releasing attachment, gives them the opportunity to release as well, so that you can create an interdependent relationship rather than a codependent relationship. Because you're no longer relying on each other. Instead, you get to co-create your lives together. So, that's step 1 for attachment. If you have any questions or comments, definitely write it below. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear anything that you're curious about or you want to learn more about. And I will see you soon. Follow me. That makes a huge difference. Subscribe to my channel. And I will continue putting out more and more content to deepen your relationships and your relationship with yourself. Have a beautiful day.